Hello all, James here. Now this topic really eats me up because I really wanted to do a video on Sunday, but I was away with my family and it wasn't appropriate. And then on Monday, there was just no time. I mean, we had to get everything done for the Stevie review show for Forbidden Door. So today I'm a bit more awake. And also there's a lot to add to the story since Stevie and I recorded and posted that video yesterday. As well, a lot of news and a couple of interviews have come out to shed even more light, which makes, quite frankly, everybody involved seem even worse than they did at the beginning, speaking of which. Stevie just texted me. Right, okay, I'm going to go through basically the quicker version of things because I'm assuming you've mostly seen the video. I'm not going to be playing the video here because everybody who does play the video gets their videos restricted to 18 plus. So there's a problem playing with the video that YouTube's picked up. So I'm presuming you've seen it, and if you've not seen it, it's everywhere on social media. You can't miss it. Anyway, this all happened at Knox Pro Wrestling School, co-owned by WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi, who wasn't there, and his cousin, Reno Black Pearl Anoa'i, of the actual Anoa'i family. It was one of the few WWE ID affiliated wrestling schools, no doubt purely because Rikishi's name was attached to the school and he's a Hall of Famer, and it didn't look like an amazing place to train from the footage we saw, and there's going to be more on that as well. Anyway, the entire 2+ hour video where all of this was captured was on Raja Jackson's own stream on Kick. And I think I've rarely heard of Kick, but apparently it's like video streaming for like the younger market. So, you know, a lot of like teenagers and preteens were watching this as well. Raja Jackson is the 26-year-old. People keep describing this guy as a kid. He's not a kid. He's a full-grown man. He's 26 years old. He's the son of Quentin Rampage Jackson, who was a UFC Hall of Famer. Anyway, he brutally assaulted another wrestler called Stuart Smith, wrestles under Syko Stu, and he had no idea that it was a real fight. Now I'm going to be, once again, presuming you've seen all this, so we're going to go to the preamble, I guess, leading up to it very quickly, and just more stuff that's happened since that sheds more light on it. Anyway, Stuart Smith, Syko Stu, 15-year veteran, also former US Army veteran, got into wrestling to sort of combat his own PTSD, and dare I say he's going to be ending up having PTSD again over this, because as bad as you may have heard your injuries are, they're worse. Right, as far as we can tell anyway, even according to his brother as well, who put to bed a couple of things that got out there that weren't true that I'd also like to correct. So, Raja Jackson, he turns up prior to the show. Stu gives him a working punch with a beer can. It's not the biggest thing in the world. He doesn't react to it. The reason Stu did it is that he presumed Raja Jackson was a wrestler, a professional wrestler, a worker. And then Stu says, well, aren't you going to sell it? And then at that point, heated confrontation happens, and this cowboy-looking dude, he's called AJ Manor, and his name's going to be coming up a lot in this as well, stands between the two, as does Black Pearl, Reno Anoa'i. Anyway, after Stu realised his mistake, he apologises profusely. He said, I'm sorry, I didn't realise that you weren't a wrestler. I thought you were. I was giving you a working punch, and, you know, just how we do it round here. Anyway, Raja refuses the handshake several times, and now I'm going to have a couple of things a bit mixed up here. I've got so much information, please bear with me. Either Black Pearl or AJ Manor or whatever, but someone explains to Raja Jackson that, hey, you can get his receipt in the ring later tonight, we'll put you on the show and make a thing. AJ Manor, by the way, if I didn't say it just before, invited Raja Jackson down. That's very important. Anyway, so it's now set up that there's going to be some sort of spot in the show involving Raja Jackson, and then when it's explained to him that you can get a receipt, basically your revenge on Stu in the ring, he immediately shakes his hand. And then over the course of 2 hours on his own live stream, and I think it was an unbroken stream as well. So when criminals, you know, these days, you know, they have to film all their crimes because criminals, you know, you have to pass an IQ test to be a criminal. Anyway, he is caught on the live stream several times saying things like, I'm just looking at my own script here, basically like, it's always been my dream to F up a pro wrestler. I'm trying not to swear on this. And then he says, I'm going to hit him until they pull me off of him, and constant stuff like this. And then at the same time, he's getting messages through Kick on the live stream from all these, I guess, teenagers saying, yeah, he really disrespected you and winding him up and blah, blah, blah. This dude is getting more and more angry over the course of 2 hours and then openly plotting his physical revenge on Stu later that night. It is as open and shut a case as you will ever find. And once again, criminals these days constantly film their own crimes, so it just makes the prosecutor's job so much easier. Anyway, I think I said this, another thing, right? So a lot of goading by Raja, not only from his fans on stream, not only apparently a wind-up, his father, Rampage Jackson, called him up and made fun of him for potentially being beaten up by a bunch of guys in spandex. Someone's already, he's clearly already emotionally unstable and pretty much brain dead, I guess, and all this further ended up winding up Raja. Now, who also is trying to follow up badly in his father's footsteps as a mixed martial artist. Once again, I think he's about 26 years old. He's had one fight in MMA that he lost, but that being so, he's hardly an elite athlete, but what he is somebody who knows Stu is giving him his body and working with him to let him do whatever he wants to do, at least initially. And Raja obviously has different ideas as documented in his own stream. Now, AJ Manor, this is also caught on the live stream. This is the cowboy goofball who was next to Stu during the beer can fake punch incident, and who invited Raja to the event, told Raja on the live stream, make sure to run in on Stu. I won't give you the full quote, it's full of swearing and everything, but make sure you run in on Stu, tag him. He uses the word tag him multiple times, and then if Stu reacts badly to Raja tagging him, then AJ claims that he would back Raja up. Now, it's starting to sound like, and I've written this previously, there was already some pre-existing bad blood between the cowboy guy and Stu. So apparently it was right, because there was, and I can't remember the YouTube channel's name, but it's done like over 500,000 views already in less than a day. That a few of the wrestlers went on there and confirmed that, yeah, AJ Manor already had pre-existing issues with, or say confirmed, also alleged, that the cowboy guy did have pre-existing bad blood, or they didn't like each other with Syko Stu. So all of a sudden, he brings this really volatile guy to the show. They immediately have this weird face-off, and then all of a sudden, this plot is on. Anyway, Manor has then since claimed that he was in character when egging Raja on, and that's just like one big eye-rolling whatever, buddy. I mean, in a court of law, let's see how that explanation goes. Anyway, Raja's music hits, and then he leaps into the ring and straight to Stu. This is after 2 hours of wind-up. He double legs him MMA style. He doesn't land him flat on his back. He's purposely throwing him so that Stu's back is arched, and therefore you've got that whiplash effect where his head hits the canvas. A lot of knockouts, or numerous knockouts, happen in MMA from slams just like this, and that was apparently the plan. So he knocks him out with the slam, and then gives him 21 punches to the face. He's unconscious the entire time. Now, the referee is, and trust me, there's a lot of people to criticise here. None more so, obviously, than this imbecile Raja Jackson, who deserves double-digit time in jail, prison for this. But here's the thing. Of all the failures and faults of everybody, I'm going to give you more. AJ Manor, obviously, Black Pearl for suggesting that this untrained guy who apparently has no interest in pro wrestling and wants to just get his revenge, and, on this dude. I mean, not that I'm sure he knew that, but basically getting this untrained guy who's a son of a celebrity. No one's heard of this guy beforehand, or practically nobody's heard of this guy beforehand. It wouldn't have sold a single ticket for Raja Jackson to be involved. It wouldn't have made the news or done the rounds on socials or anything like that whatsoever. There was no point having him on there. He's the son of somebody who was famous. Anyway, so Black Pearl and the entire Knox pro wrestling outfit, pro wrestling school, needs criticising heavily, and they will be. This referee, after a couple of punches, right, it's obvious that Stu is knocked out, and then this referee starts doing this, and flapping his arms around and doing nothing as another 19 punches are rained down on an unconscious man's face. One of the wrestlers does, after he's out of the ring, he's got his Raja's back is towards this wrestler, so obviously he, I guess, couldn't have seen what had happened immediately, and then he comes in, tries to get him off, then other wrestlers come in and try and, sort of pin him into the corner. There'll be something else happening in a second about that. But, I mean, the referee, right, okay, I understand at this level especially, referees are basically spares hanging around, like, these wrestling schools, hoping to be part of the, hoping to help out and then maybe be part of the show, and like they end up refereeing stuff. But the fact is that selling tickets and dog's body stuff, but just standing in there and watching a full-on assault happen before your eyes, and you're too scared to dive in. Maybe after a couple of punches you're unsure, or it's such a shock, but this went on for seconds and seconds and seconds on end. He needed to get over on Stu's head and cover him, or grab Raja's arm, anything to stop this from continuing, and he didn't. He completely failed in his duty, and it is a referee's duty to look after the wrestlers in the ring, from fans, from looking at, if a ring is dangerous and giving some advice, helping the wrestlers out, communicate between each other. They're there for the wrestlers' safety. And that's really, really important to make mention of. And he wasn't. He's completely unfit for that job. So anyway, 21 punches, unprotected, to an unconscious man's face. Stu is severely injured, and eventually other wrestlers and personnel run from the back to pull Raja off of Stu. He actually tried to double leg one of the wrestlers. He's somebody who's been giving some quotes to the media as well. Stu ends up unconscious for a prolonged period of time. There's even a bit in the kick stream where on the phone the audio's picked up and someone is telling Raja that he's flatlined, he's still out, and this is minutes after the fact. This was also right after where he's crying into the camera, calling, saying, "I'm sick of people calling me a bitch, I ain't no bitch." And it's like, you just did the most bitch move in the entire world. You sucker punched someone, you sucker attacked them, and then you kept hitting them when they couldn't defend themselves. I'm struggling to come up with a bigger definition of a little bitch than Raja Jackson. Anyway, Stu ends up unconscious for a prolonged period of time, of course. Injuries include possible brain injury. I think that's probably a given. Concussions, of course. Broken bones in his face. Multiple teeth knocked out. He was choking on his own blood and teeth, which is a quote that I'm very sorry, I can't find the guy's name at this short notice while I'm still recording. I'll find it one sec. Sorry, the guy's name's Douglas Mallow. I might have messed up on the age. It's 25, 26. It's much of a muchness. It doesn't make any difference. Okay, Rampage Jackson also, and I've got more quotes from him, but he was saying it was all planned and that kind of thing, and, all that kind of nonsense. As far as we can tell, or possibly that the slam was planned, but the fact is that there seemed to be so little planning at all, at least on this kick stream. This dude just went off on his own, just figured there was no checks and balances. Once again, red flag after red flag after red flag. This could have been stopped so much earlier. Like, how about not getting a completely untrained psychopath involved where they've just had a confrontation with the same wrestler 2 hours earlier, and then lo and behold is refusing to shake his hand and accepts an apology. Then when told he can get a receipt on the guy, all of a sudden he's shaking his hand again. I mean, like, are there no synapses firing in anyone's brain at this school? It's just a band of morons running around here, and there's more, trust me. This might even be the stupidest thing. By the way, just before I get to it, as best we know at this time of recording, according to Stu's brother, he's still in the hospital. It was originally suggested that he'd gone home either Saturday night, Sunday morning. His brother has cleared that up, and basically, whatever the injuries are that you've heard that Stu has, apparently they might even be worse than what's been released, but he's struggling to speak, struggling to communicate, best we can understand at this point. He has limited memory of the attack. He has probably limited memory of the entire day, quite frankly, after what had happened. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else, because I've got 5 pages of notes here as well, and I don't want to miss anything. Wrestlers said this after the fact, and also said, within a day. It's like there were a lot of kids in the crowd as well. There were kids in the crowd. I believe Douglas Mallow had actually invited some families to come and see the show as well, so he was unbelievably upset. This is the guy, by the way, who Raja tried to double leg, and eventually he's one of the guys who pinned him into the corner and then got him out of the ring. And then, of course, Raja absconded the crime scene very, very quickly, because, once again, he is a bitch, and he won't even face the consequences of his actions. Right, so here's the thing. Oh, by the way, and here's another depressing fact, is that Stu's mother was in the crowd as well, witnessing this full-on attempted murder. You can't even call it a aggravated assault at this point. It looks more like attempted murder at this point. Anyway, after Raja is forced out of the ring, another wrestler, and this only came to light when a second video was uploaded somewhere in TikTok, and then it was Filthy Tom Lawler, former UFC fighter and pro wrestler currently, who posted this. and got the most traction. While Stu is still unconscious, face up, and they've just got Raja out the ring, another wrestler comes in and then pins Syko Stuart Smith's unconscious body, and the referee counts the pin. I mean, I cannot echo Tom Lawler's call enough. Get these people out of wrestling. Like, the wrestling bubble, like, makes your thinking so skewed that, like, one, like, the show must go on. It's like the guy could be dead, but apparently you've got to get your own shit in, which is just the most laughable thing in the world. Here's the thing. It's like, okay, you've just seen 20-odd punches. I don't care if the guy saw it or not. Obviously, something had gone wrong. But, of course, unbelievably selfish guy has to get a pin, and then the moron referee he was stood right there closer to anyone else apart from Stu and Raja, that he knows these punches are real and that he's absolutely unconscious, but nope, let's count that pin, let's give the guys a show, kind of thing. And it's like, they all need, I don't know, they all need excommunicate from wrestling. Every single one of the people that I've mentioned that I'm having a go at now, and obviously this doesn't include Stu. We can't even say that, once again, it's the wrestling bubble thing. Stu did something to this absolute maniac that if he wasn't in pro wrestling, and it turns out he wasn't in pro wrestling, is kind of an unacceptable way to say hello. But also, that doesn't warrant a death sentence. I think I wrote this somewhere else in the notes as well. Even if Stu had seen him and punched him full on in the face, that is not a capital crime. Anyway. I mean, he would have deserved a smack back, obviously, but or a couple of smacks back, obviously. But once again, it's just nuts, like the overkill of all of this. Anyway, so I've already said that bit. Right, let's get to some tweets. Nox Pro has tweeted out this: what was supposed to be a planned and agreed upon wrestling spot turned into a selfish, irresponsible act of violence against Mr. Smith. This egregious act is reprehensible and never should have occurred. You're damn right it should have never occurred, and it occurred on their watch, with not the unconscious punches and attack and everything. But it was their suggestion to get this nut job on the show, this Raja Jackson on the show. They said it was okay. They gave the okay. Yeah, it should have never occurred. You let it occur. Or at least you gave the green light for a complete psychopath to be in the ring with somebody who trusted their body to this complete psychopath. Anyway, in the 17 years of operations of Nox Pro Wrestling Academy, there has never been anything as heinous take place such as this, and we apologise to our patrons in advance. Right, okay. Any reference to Rikishi School being affiliated with the WWE ID program have now been removed from the website. Now, just for the WWE ID program, it's a way of just paying certain wrestlers a little bit of a stipend, I guess, to remain on the indies, get experience. They're affiliated with like half a dozen wrestling schools, and all but one of them, pretty much, they're all like former WWE or existing WWE pro wrestlers. So I think Reality of Wrestling, I think, might be Devon's. I know Seth Rollins, Black and Brave, is there, formerly Rikishi's. Cody Rhodes, I think only one of them isn't affiliated or doesn't have like a current or former WWE Hall of Fame wrestler, associated with it. And, of course, WWE has rescinded the ID affiliation from this school. They've taken it off their website. They hadn't done 24 hours ago when I last checked it, but they have done since. And obviously WWE wants absolutely nothing to do with this clown show, for letting all these things happen. Stevie said this yesterday. People have gotten far too comfortable and probably far too spoiled with celebrities, or in this case, a non-celebrity who is the son of a celebrity. He will never be a celebrity. All he has is infamy from this now one incident, and this will all he'll ever be remembered for, most likely, unless he does something even worse in the future. But, we've been spoiled with celebrities, even bad people like Logan Paul, allegedly, and, other people like everyone from Jelly Roll and all the way back to Andy Kaufman, but, even more recently, there's been a lot of celebrities who have come into wrestling and done really, really great jobs. And there's almost this assumption that they're in on the joke. And occasionally you just get, once again, some no-mark, some goofball who isn't in on the joke or knows that the other person doesn't realise that they're not in on the joke, and they are in on the joke. I mean, I'm roundabout way of talking about this, but anyway, we continue. Rampage Jackson tweets, I want to clear up the misinformation about my son Raja. I've been confirmed that the wrestler Stuart Smith, aka Syko Stu, is awake and stable. Raja was unexpectedly hit on the side of the head by him moments before Smith's match. Raja was told that he could get his payback in the ring. I thought it was a part of the show. It was bad judgment and a work that went wrong. Raja is an MMA fighter, not a pro wrestler, and had no business involved in an event like this. I don't condone my son's actions at all. He suffered a concussion from sparring only days ago and had no business doing anything remotely close to physical contact. As a father, I'm deeply concerned with his health and the well-being of Mr. Smith. That being said, I'm very upset that any of this happened, but my main concern is that Mr. Smith will make a speedy recovery. I apologise on his behalf, and to Kick for the situation. Now, I believe that the stream on Kick has now been taken down, but it's up on YouTube, it's up everywhere, all the salient stuff you can find. Rampage Jackson a couple of weeks ago joked on social media that he'd set aside university tuition fees for 2 of his sons and bail money for the third son. We can guess which one the third son is. Chael Sonnen's quote, one of, I guess, 2 people to come out and sort of defend Raja Jackson, or at least try and offer it mitigating circumstances. Here's what he says. The guys told him to get even with him in the ring. Now, that is wildly open to interpretation as to what it means. But it made a level of sense to Raja, who agrees. When that is being said to him, that didn't mean go out there and hurt him. But one is a worker, pro wrestling performer, who fully understands that in Stu, and the other is not a professional wrestler. Okay. This is one of the worst takes I've ever heard, right? Because punching an unconscious man in the head 21 times isn't a misunderstanding or not realising that wrestling is supposed to be fake or worked or whatever adjective you look at the adjective play. There is no misunderstanding that. You're a supposedly trained fighter, not a particularly good one, but you're still a trained fighter. He'd just been concussed, apparently. Raja Jackson had been a few days earlier. He shouldn't have been anywhere near anything physical whatsoever. But this is a deliberate attack. This is not a misunderstanding, or because he's on the stream saying, I'm not going to fake it. He knows that pro wrestling is worked, but he's not going to fake it. He's just said it on the live stream. It's a premeditated plan and attack. You can't then just offer some half-baked explanation that it wasn't all Raja Jackson's fault. It's entirely his fault. He's entirely culpable. There is no misunderstanding here. So, he'd been planning this on his own live stream for 2 hours straight. He also totally knows that pro wrestling is fake. As I said, there is no other way with anybody with a functioning brain can interpret this. But I'm looking forward to the occasional, moron actually trying to, in some way, justify it. And some people have been, and you can just tell, they're just people with no accountability, and no comeback because they've got some, no profile of their photo. It's coming from nobody important, basically, apart from a couple of names who, for some reason, are backing up this Raja moron. Anyway, follow up. This is Rikishi's wrestling school, ID affiliated once again. I actually wrote this yesterday. I've already addressed the WWE ID thing. Black Pearl, I'm wondering if he can be found negligent in suggesting this, because, quite frankly, he should be. Just offering up this spot to... I've already explained a million times, it should never have happened. Anyway, this is the update. One of the wrestlers at Nox Pro gave an interview. A few of them did, actually, but only one of them was there, I think, on the night, or maybe 2 of them were. But they claimed that Rikishi's promotion, this Nox Pro, were already telling their trainees and staff to not cooperate with the investigation. Here's the quote from him. This actually might be from Douglas Mallow as well. I'm sorry, I didn't write all the names down, but bear with me. The most disgusting thing that people at the school are being encouraged to not cooperate with the police. From what I hear, the police were there investigating the scene shortly after Stu was removed, and there have been multiple requests that have gone downstream from upper management to not talk with the police directly if they are contacted, and to only let a certain group of individuals interact with the police. This is extremely dishonest. You guys let your friend almost die, and now you're trying to have people lie for you. Sorry, I had to take a drink there and cough. The initial messages that were shared by Nox Pro's Kevin Thomas, KT King, on the Syko Stu Raja Jackson incident are as follows. Please refrain from engaging in comment sections on social media posts about this tragedy. It will be weaponized in potential criminal and civil cases. Fly low. Now, that's very interesting. Okay, I'm going to go back to that sentence. If law enforcement or an attorney for the suspect contacts you in any capacity, let someone here know right away for guidance on how to address them. They're trying to bury this straight away. Okay, weaponized in potential criminal case, right? Well, why wouldn't you want to weaponize all these comments it won't be for the defence, I'll tell you. It'll be for the prosecution. That this Raja Jackson, you want to be arrested, you apparently, or maybe you don't, because they also put in, this KT King put civil cases. They're mentioning civil cases because I really, really hope Stu Smith sues the training school, as well as Rampage Jackson's kid, as well as AJ Mann. All these people they're all there on a live stream from the attacker, the attacker's own, the defence's own, Exhibit A, encouraging him, colluding to put all this together. Now, including telling him to tag him and that blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's all there for you. But so why would the school not want to, cooperate with, criminal prosecution, with the police? And the reason is because the school is worried about a civil case coming to them, and it should come to them, and they should lose it for it, because this is just absolute disgraceful from everybody involved. Once again, Raja Jackson is obviously the biggest culprit, but there are a lot of people failing Stuart Smith here, and the school was one of them, as far as I can tell. That's my opinion. Now, cops were indeed called, and Los Angeles police were called. They arrived at the scene shortly after Raja absconded, and they were looking into the incident. Of course, the show was shut down straight afterwards, so maybe the final show ever of Knox Pro will show that Stuart Smith was pinned by some other random wrestler after he was knocked unconscious. Anyway, there have been sucker punchers in wrestling. I mean, some even made their name off it, like Akira Maeda, Ricky Dozan, people like that. But this is so far beyond a sucker punch. This is a sucker killing or attempted murder. It completely is that. This has also been compared to some of the things New Jack has done and other wrestlers and got away with it. And, the mass transit incident is one thing where, the guy probably deserved a receipt. He shouldn't have been in the ring as well, kind of thing. Stu should have been in the ring. The guy who was assaulting Stu should not have been in the ring. New Jack should have been in the ring, but been obviously more mature about it than to grab whatever disagreements he had with this mass transit guy than, getting an X-Acto knife and trying to scalp him. But then there are even worse incidents with New Jack where he tried to stab Hunter Lane multiple times and basically tried to kill him. And New Jack, after the fact, said he tried to kill him after Hunter Lane was being careless, punched him in the eye, punched him in the nose. And this is on par with that. This is an attempted murder. And New Jack has admitted, while he was alive, obviously, that he was trying to kill his opponent. And this dude, Raja Jackson, was trying to kill Stu Smith. There is no doubt in my mind, or badly hurt him, and if he dies. Look, there's something called one-punch killers, right? That, a disagreement or whatever happens, someone hits somebody else, they get knocked out immediately, the head hits the floor, and they die. It happens way more frequently than people probably would like to admit. And the worrying thing is that, and this is once again parroting something Stevie said yesterday, that pro wrestlers are in such a bubble and don't realise how dangerous some of these things can be, because, they're nearly always cooperating each other. They're slamming each other on their back, trying to tuck their chin, trying not to whiplash their head back and, knock their head back. They're not trying to knock each other out. They're hitting each other, if they do stiff each other, in safer places than, the temple or the point of the chin or, the nose or anything like that. It's just... Anyway, to wrap it up, because this is just... I know I'm bleating on. I know you probably heard a lot of this before, but these are just some of the latest updates. There'll be a lot more updates. I'll be covering it. I'm sure Stevie will be covering it. I'm going to be recording with Dutch in an hour and a half. We're going to be covering it. And, it's maybe one of the biggest stories of the year as far as, like, a human perspective. I know there's business perspective, ESPN and all that kind of thing could be more. But, I mean, this is just one of the just saddest things that pro wrestling has got too comfortable letting nut jobs like that in, just assuming that they know what they're doing, or that they aren't going to take liberties to this extent. And it's just it's a sad state of affairs, and hopefully it's an eye-opener. It's an awakening for people in pro wrestling that you just can't trust any Tom, Dick or Harry coming off the street, and then all these red flags and then all these bad feelings lead to this one point where a guy is horrifically injured, will probably never be the same again, once again, he's a former army vet suffering PTSD who went into pro wrestling to manage his symptoms of PTSD, and then 15 years after the fact, this is how it ends, and it just seems so unbelievably sad. So it should act as a warning. It should act as, you can't get away with anything just because it's in a pro wrestling ring. I genuinely think some people are that brain dead that they assume that, well, it's part of a match, blah, 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 that it should be fine. I genuinely think there's going to be a couple of maniacs out there that would think that. But other than that, that's the whole story, all the latest updates I've got for you. I'll probably be covering this again at some point in the next couple of days if anything else comes to light. Until then, I'll see you for the next video.